I'm going to tell you something you may not know, and it may change the way you view our true history forever. So let's start with Egypt, and the pyramids were built with limestone blocks. Now, those limestone blocks are very important, and they also built the limestone other buildings with limestone. So that's important. Hold that thought. Pumapunku. Now, these are massive blocks again, but these are not limestone. These are actually made of red sandstone. Okay, what's the connection? Well, red sandstone is composed mostly of quartz, sand, quartz. Hold that thought. Even the limestone from the pyramids, etc., have quartz in them. And look, these massive blocks here from Stonehenge in the UK has silkite rock, which silkite rock has, wait for it, quartz. If you want to know how they moved all these blocks because of the quartz, watch my videos from number 1 onwards, and you'll find our true history. In ancient Egypt, did the Anunnaki actually help make the Nile River? Now, the Nile River, when you look at it, goes from Cairo all the way down and passes Egypt, etc. Now, we know the Anunnaki were there, and we also know the Anunnaki were in Mesopotamia. So what makes me even think that they even partly helped dig out some of this? Well, in ancient texts, they actually talk about the Tigris and the Euphrates, and they actually admit that they raised land and created waterways. So they did create waterways. They don't specifically point out the Nile, but they do point to these two. So if you appreciate the work I do, I am doing a Patreon site. So it will have extra content, longer videos, etc. So once that's done, I will put the link up on one of these videos, and hopefully I'll see you there. And you might even see me doing live chats face to face, which will be. I'm guessing you won't know this, probably because I think I'm the only person that's, again, worked this one out. So, you've got the Great Pyramid. Now, there's actually 2 entrances into the Great Pyramid, as you can see there, the official one and one that was bored into. Now, according to mainstream, they say around 820 AD, Abdullah al-Mamun went in there and looked for and smashed through, which is why there's now there's 2 entrances, and looked for treasure. However, I cannot find any written record of anything to do with someone like him going in. The only record I can find is a Sumerian record that says that Ninurta broke through the pyramid to help rescue Marduk, who was stuck in the pyramid. So, what one do you believe? My theory, where this is a lot older and actually talks about creating a second hole to get into the pyramid, or baloney, or this mainstream crap? If you believe the Great Pyramid was built by slaves, hundreds of thousands of them in 20 years, that's 2.5 minutes per block, not including night times, then move along. If you agree with me that the Anunnaki built them, simply because it actually says so in ancient stone tablets, then you're on the right track. Now, if you watch my last video where I point out that there's a second entrance into the Great Pyramid, now mainstream try and avoid telling you this, but when they do, they come out with some crap. But the ancient stone tablets talk about Ninurta, which was one of the Anunnaki, going in and actually creating that entrance. So we've got written proof. So that means then the Anunnaki built the pyramid, Great Pyramid, which we know anyway. But how did they do it? Well, here's a guy called John Hutchinson. Now he's using a kind of speaker, but a very high frequency to move these objects. Now I know we're not quite there yet, but one day, the more and more we learn about high sound frequencies, we'll get to moving the block. Don't hate me if you've not done your research or used logic. Now, there's a thing called the Diary of Murmur, and that is really just a papyrus piece of paper that is also known as papyrus jarf. And on that, it's just a logbook during the time of Khufu, where they talk about the moving of limestone blocks on boats. Now, that's fine. I've got no problem with that. They did actually at that point. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't say what the blocks were used for, so people assume they were used for the pyramids. But the pyramids were much, much older than that. Now, this is where the logic comes in. So, the actual writing there says that they moved about 200 blocks per month down the Nile. Now, 200 blocks per month, if you do the math, in 20 years, that's 48,000 blocks. The pyramid has 2,300,000, and the pyramids were supposed to be built in 20 years. So the logic doesn't stack up. why should you start following me or even carry on following me, seeing as I've already told you who the Atlanteans were, why Stonehenge was built, and if you watched the other previous videos, you'll know that I'm right. Well, there's plenty more to come. That's exactly why you should be watching and following. I'm going to be telling you why the Sumerians left Sumeria, the amount of history they had, and then suddenly they vanished, and I'll explain exactly why. The Egyptians, I'll cover what happened after the 32nd dynasty, which was the last dynasty. I'll tell you that. I'm not afraid to go down. We're coming with me, aren't you? You're all coming with me down this rabbit hole. And I'll explain who Thor was. And no, I'm not on about the movie. Now, if you've watched my previous videos, I want to give you a clue. You already know who he is. You just may not know him in that name. And I will explain who was at Greece and at what time, and why Zeus, etc. was there. So keep following.